أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
Lesson number 123, Surah Yusuf. We'll begin from ayah number 30. وَقَالَ نِسْوَةٌ فِي الْمَدِينَةِ. And the women in the city, they said, امرأة العزيز تراود فتاها عن نفسه. The wife of Al-Aziz, she is seeking to seduce her slave boy. قَدْ شَغَفَهَا حُبًّا. He has impassioned her with love. إِنَّا لَنَرَاهَا فِي ضَلَالٍ مُبِينٍ. Indeed, we see her to be in clear error. Previously we learnt that the wife of Aziz, and who was Aziz? He was a finance minister of Egypt. And it was in his house that Yusuf a.s. was as a slave. And as we learned that the Aziz, he commanded his wife that she must treat Yusuf a.s. really well and provide her with a good accommodation. And he also said that perhaps we will take him as our son. Which shows to us the age difference between Yusuf a.s. and who? The wife of Aziz. But as Yusuf a.s. grew older, as we learned, وَلَمَّا بَلَغَ أَشُدَّهُ, and Ashud is the age between 30 and 40. So he was an adult man by then. And he grew very handsome. And we see that the wife of Aziz, she began to have feelings of desire for him. And she openly invited him for zina. And when he refused, and the evidence was proven against her, she became very upset with him. She became extremely angry with him. And Aziz, he told Yusuf a.s. to ignore what had happened, because obviously nothing was in his hand. What could he do? He could not punish his wife, and at the same time he could not punish Yusuf a.s. because it wasn't his fault. And the reason why he told Yusuf a.s. to ignore this was so that this news, this incident does not spread. However, such things, they spread like wildfire, especially amongst who? The women. Because women themselves, even if a woman herself has committed such an action, she cannot keep it to herself. She will definitely share it with her friends. So what happened? وَقَالَ نِسْوَةٌ. The women of the city, they began talking about this. Because unfortunately, women, they love talking about such issues. Scandals, affairs, what's going on between one man and one woman. If they just happen to see a man and a woman together, perhaps talking about something that's with regards to their work, automatically women will think that there's something going on. And they will begin talking about it. So similarly, at that time as well, in that society, who is the one who was talking about this incident? The women of the city. And if you look at the word niswatun, niswa is a plural word and it has no singular form. It does not have any singular form, which is why we just translate it as women. There is no singular for it. And the word in itself is imufrat. The word in itself is imufrat. It's singular, it's an individual word. And because of that, the pronoun that has been used for it is masculine. قَالَ نِسْوَةٌ. It's not قَالَت. So وَقَالَ نِسْوَةٌ فِي الْمَدِينَةِ. In the city. Which city is this? The city in Egypt, whichever one it was, where they were living. They said that imra'atul aziz, the wife of the Aziz, she is turawidu, she is seeking to seduce fataha, her young slave boy. Turawidu, we learned earlier, it's from the root letters ra, waw, dal. And the word fata is from the root letters fataya. Earlier we read the word ghulam, and now we're reading the word fata. So we see that ghulam is used for a boy who is younger in his age, and fata is used for one who is older. What's the difference? It is said that ghulam is the one who has almost reached the age of puberty. And the word fata is used for afterwards, meaning someone who has reached the age of puberty, above and beyond that. So she is trying to seduce her young slave boy, an nafsihi, from himself. And why is it so? That قَدْ شَغَفَهَا, because he has impassioned her hubban, in love. He has filled her heart with love. If you think of it, did Yusuf a.s. fill her heart? No, it was she herself. But look at the way they blame Yusuf alayhi salam. And this is something very common. That people, instead of lowering their gaze, they say that the other person is just so attractive. I can't help but looking at them. It's not my fault. It's your fault. You have the choice of lowering your gaze. You have the choice of looking aside. So the same thing we see even in the people of that time. That قَدْ شَغَفَهَا حُبًّا. Shaghafa is from the root letters Sheen, Ghain, Fa. Sheen, Ghain, Fa. And Shaghafatul Qalb is basically the inner part of the heart. Shaghafa, Sheen, Ghain, Fa, Tamurbuta. And Al-Qalb, Shaghafatul Qalb is the inner part of the heart. And the verb Shaghafa Hubban is such love that has penetrated into the inner casing of the heart. That has gone inside a person's heart. And it has settled in there. So قَدْ شَغَفَهَا حُبًّا, meaning he has infatuated her, he has impassioned her, she is violently in love with him, she is crazy about him. And إِنَّا لَنَرَاهَا, indeed we see her to be فِي ضَلَالٍ مُبِينٍ, in a clear error. Because she is in love with who? Her slave. She is in love with a slave. And this is clearly something that is wrong. So we see that this news, it spread amongst the people, and the women, they began talking about this incident. If you think about it, these women were perhaps of the same social status as the wife of Aziz. Because later on we find out that she invited all of them to her house. So what does that show? That perhaps they were of her friends, of the same social class. But what does this show? That their friendship was not the one based on Iman, which is why they spoke negatively about one another. It was not based on Iman, because if it was based on Iman, what would they do? They would correct her, instead of talking behind her. So this kind of friendship was purely based on worldly benefits. And we also see over here that they're talking about her as if she is really in love. Whereas we see that this woman was not actually in love with him. What was it? It was only lust. It wasn't love. So, it was lust, and they made it into love, into a relationship that he has impassioned her with love, as if it's both-sided. Whereas we saw that it was only one-sided. When they say that he has impassioned her with love, what does it show? That as if it's a both-sided relationship. So we see that the approach of one person to the other, it has formed into a whole scandal. And the women are talking about a scandal. Something that they hear about and they add more details to it. They add their opinions to it, their thoughts to it, and they make a whole story out of it. And this is something very common today as well. That two people, if they are together, a whole story is made out of it. And people begin to discuss it, they begin to talk about it. And remember that this is something extremely wrong in our religion. In fact, it's a major sin to talk about scandals, to talk about affairs, and to accuse someone of committing zina, whereas in reality they have not committed zina. For example, if two people are seen coming out of the car together in the morning, perhaps somebody will say they spent the night together. How do you know? You don't know. Unless a person has seen with his eyes, he cannot say that. And if he says that, there is a punishment for that. You know what the punishment is? 80 lashes. 80 lashes. This is something extremely serious in our religion. We cannot go on passing comments on people. This one is sleeping with them and this one is going out with them. How do you know? Have you seen them yourself? Have you seen them with your eyes? Are there 4 witnesses that you can bring? If you cannot, then you must remain quiet. But we see that people who are not fearful of the akhirah, they like talking about such things. This is why we see such speech very common amongst the women of that place. فَلَمَّا سَمِعَتْ, but then when she heard, بِمَكْرِهِنَّ, of their scheming. When she, meaning the wife of Aziz, when she heard of their scheming. Makr is from the root letters Mim Kafra, and it's used for a plan, a plot, a scheme that is basically made to harm someone, and it's also behind their back. It's also hidden from them. It's kept as a secret. Because if it's publicized, would it remain as a plot? No. It wouldn't remain as a plot. So when she heard of their scheming, what does it mean by this scheming of the women? This scheming has been understood in several ways. That first of all, she figured out that the reason why the women were talking about this was because even they wanted to see Yusuf alayhi salam. The reason why they were talking about this incident was because even they themselves wanted to see Yusuf alayhi salam. They wanted to see what is it about this man that she is so much in love with him, that she tried to seduce a slave who is living in her house, who is so much younger than her. So what's the big deal? Who is he? What does he look like? What's so great about him? So they wanted to see him, and she figured out that this is why they're talking about this issue. Secondly, this is called scheming because by talking about this incident, they let it out. They publicized it. It became common. Because it's possible that she must have told only one or two of her friends. And they shared with other friends, who shared with other friends. And then the news spread everywhere, amongst all people. Just think about it. A woman shares something with her friend, and she tells her sister, and who tells her sister, and then it goes on Facebook, and then it goes on Twitter, and it goes everywhere. Everybody finds out about it. It becomes publicized. So this was their scheming, their plotting against her. That everyone finds out about it. And because also it was behind her back, this is why it was makr. So when she heard about their scheming, what did she do? Arsalat, she sent, ilayhinna, to them. She sent for them, meaning she invited them. Where? To her house. Arsalat ilayhinna, she sent for them, meaning she invited them to her house. وَأَعْتَدَتْ, and she also prepared. أَعْتَدَتْ from the root letters, عَيْن تا دا. أَعْتَد. أَعْتَد, which is to prepare something, to make something ready. So أَعْتَدَتْ, she prepared, لَهُنَّ, for the women, مُتَّكَأً, a banquet. She prepared a banquet for the women. The word muttaka has been used because the word banquet, what does it remind you of? A royal banquet. Because she was of the elite class. So definitely the dinner or the party that she had in her house must have been very great. Muttaka is from the root letters waw, kaf, hamza. And waka'a literally is to take support on something, to recline against something. Musa alayhi salam, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asked him that وَمَا تِلْكَ بِيَمِينِكَ يَا مُوسَى, what is this in your hand? He said, هِيَ عَصَايَ أَتَوَكَّأُ, that this is my staff and I recline on it. أَتَوَكَّأُ عَلَيْهَا وَأَهُشُّ بِهَا غَنَمِي. So أَتَوَكَّأُ from the same root letters, to recline on something, to take support from something. So the word muttaka, this is an ism dharf. What is it? An ism dharf. What is an ism dharf? A noun of place or time. It tells you about the place where an action happens or the time when an action occurs. Now you may wonder the word muttaka. What's the structure? What did you learn? What was the structure of ism dharf? Maf'il or maf'al. But if you remember in your book, there was also a note that all of the ism dharf are not on these structures. Right? There were also many exceptional cases. One of them was that sometimes it also comes on the structure of ism maf'ul. It also comes on the structure of ism maf'ul. And muttaka, this is ism maf'ul as well. This is a structure of ism maf'ul. So because it's ism maf'ul as well, therefore it can also be used for ism dharf. So muttaka is a place, a time in which the people are reclining. They're sitting and they're reclining, they're resting their backs. So what is this? A party, a banquet, a feast in which people are sitting on their couches, on the floor, or on the chairs, and they're reclining. They're just sitting, eating, having fun, talking casually. So the word muttaka gives the meaning of a very relaxed and luxurious party. Because people are not sitting properly on dining chairs. Where are they sitting? On their couches. And this is generally after people have had the dinner and they're sitting, they're sipping on their tea having light snacks, and then talking. So similarly, muttaka, this is what? A very luxurious and relaxed party. The word muttaka is also used for a sofa, a couch. Over here it's being used for a banquet, but the word muttaka also applies to what? A couch or a sofa where a person sits and he reclines. Similarly, the word muttaka is also used for food. It is also used for food. Why? Because you have food when? At a banquet. That's what it's known for. That's the main thing about the banquet. Dinner. Which is why when people go there, they wonder, what are we going to be served? When are we going to eat? When is dinner going to be served? So the word muttaka also applies to food. According to Imam al-Razi, he said that muttaka is actually the name of a fruit. What is it? It's the name of a fruit in Habashi language. And it's such a fruit that can only be cut with a knife. It can only be cut how? With a knife. You know, some fruits you can just peel them, or you can just eat them as they are. But some fruits you need to cut them with a knife. Otherwise it's extremely difficult to get to the pulp and get to the main part of the fruit to be able to eat it. So she prepared for them a banquet, a dinner, a feast, or she prepared for all of them this particular fruit for which they would have to use knives in order to cut that fruit. So she made sure that everyone had to use a knife. Do you understand? The kind of food she served, she made sure that everyone had to use a knife. No one could do with just a fork or with just a spoon. Like for example, if you serve steak to someone, can they make do with a spoon or a fork? No, they have to use a knife. So similarly, the kind of food she served, she ensured that everybody has to use a knife. And for that reason, وَآتَتْ, and she also gave, كُلَّ وَاحِدَةٍ مِّنْهُنَّ, each and every one of them, every single woman was given سِكِّينًا, a knife. It wasn't that there were just a few knives which people could take, cut their fruit and put it back. No. Every single person was given a knife to hold in their hand, to cut their food with it, and to be able to eat with them. So she gave every single person a knife. And then when everyone was holding their knives, and they were trying to cut the fruit, cut that particular food, وَقَالَتْ, and she said, to who? To Yusuf alayhi salam, أُخْرُجْ عَلَيْهِنَّ, come out upon them. Meaning, come out in front of them, come out right before them. Now just imagine, they are holding their knives, and they have the fruit in their hand, and they're trying to cut the fruit, and all of a sudden, Yusuf alayhi salam comes before them. Just imagine, you and your friends, you're sitting, and you're eating, and all of a sudden a man walks in. What would be your reaction? What would be your reaction? All of a sudden, you'd be surprised, where did he come from, and where's my hijab, and what's going on? Sometimes women start screaming, sometimes they gasp, sometimes they react very loudly, and sometimes what is in their hands, it falls. Now, it wasn't just that any ordinary man walked in. This man was who? Yusuf alayhi salam. And he was extremely handsome. And these women, obviously, they had no haya. So when he came in, they looked at him, and they were shocked. فَلَمَّا رَأَيْنَهُ, then when they saw him, when they saw Yusuf alayhi salam, أَكْبَرْنَهُ, they considered him very great. They greatly admired him. They greatly admired him. Akbarna is from the root letters kaf ba ra, from the word kabura, which means to be great, to be big, and akbara. Okay, akbara. This is a fi'l. This is not af'al. This is not ism tafdeel. That's Allahu Akbar. This is akbara, yukbiru, ikbar, and from akbara there's a noon which is of feminine. So akbara is a verb, it's a fi'l. And akbara is to regard someone, to consider someone very great, to greatly admire someone, to greatly admire someone. So akbarnahu, they greatly admired him. They were very impressed by his beauty, by his good looks. They were shocked. They were amazed. It is said that frightfully beautiful. and very handsome. So أكبرنه وقطعنا, and as a result they cut. قطعنا from the root letters قاف طاء عين, قطع, and قطع يقطع تقطيع. All of them, they cut أيديهن, their hands. They were holding their knives and the pieces of food, and their eyes were fixed on Yusuf alayhi salam, and they didn't realize where the knife was going, and they ended up cutting their hands. And just imagine, in that shock, they didn't even feel the pain. They didn't even realize that they were actually cutting their hands. Like, for example, if you are doing something with your hands, and all of a sudden somebody comes in and they start talking to you, you don't realize, for example, you're typing, you don't realize you're typing completely wrong. Or perhaps you have, by mistake, clicked the mouse at the wrong place, and all of a sudden you're typing completely somewhere else, and you've deleted all of your notes. It's possible. It happens sometimes. When you're not looking at what you're doing, you end up making big mistakes. Now, they had a knife, and with that knife they were cutting a fruit. And in that process, they didn't realize, as they were staring at him, that they cut their hands. And in that shock, in that amazement, they didn't even feel the pain. قَطَّعْنَا أَيْدِيَهُنَّ وَقُلْنَا, and they said, حَاشَ لِلَّهِ. How perfect is Allah. Perfection is for Allah. Or may Allah preserve us. حَاشَ لِلَّهِ. حَاشَ لِلَّهِ is a kalima ta'ajjub, meaning it's an expression of amazement, of surprise. It's an expression of what? Amazement and surprise. Which is why it cannot be translated. You have to understand it in Arabic. When it's translated as God preserve us or perfection is for Allah, this is not really the literal translation. Hasha is from the root letters ha, waw, shin, and hasha is actually hasha with an alif at the end. That's the actual word, with an alif at the end. And hasha is actually a harf jar. And what does it do? It gives a kasra to the noun that comes after it. Just a grammar point. And this word, it comes in place of tanzih and bara'ah. What does it mean by bara'ah? To be immune, to be free from, to declare freedom from. So bara'ah over here gives the meaning of perfection, meaning one who is perfect and free from any faults, any blemishes, any shortcomings, any errors, any mistakes. So hasha comes in place of what? Bara'ah, which gives the meaning of perfection. And lillah, this lam is for bayan. What does bayan mean? It's explanatory. Meaning this lam explains for who is bara'ah, for who is perfection. It is for who? Hasha li lillah. So hasha lillah together gives the meaning of Allah is perfect. How perfect is Allah. That how beautiful He has made this creation. And this kind of an expression is uttered in a state of shock, in a state of amazement. Like, for example, you say Subhanallah. When? Every time you see something beautiful? Also sometimes when something shocking happens. When you hear somebody said something very negative, you're like, Subhanallah, how could they say such a thing? Subhanallah. So similarly, Hasha lillah. This is a kalima of ta'ajjub, of amazement, that how perfect is Allah. And sometimes is also translated as God preserve us, may Allah preserve us, may Allah forbid. So Hasha lillah, ma hada basharan, this is not a man. They say that this man, this person, Yusuf alayhi salam, he is not a bashar. He cannot be a human being. It's not possible that he would be a human being because of his beauty, because of his extremely good looks. Then who is he? They say, in hada, this is not illa except malakun kareem, a very noble angel. He cannot be a human being. He must be a very noble angel. Kareem is who? One who is very noble. One who is also very generous. Because basically karam gives the meaning of nobility, of high quality, and it also gives the meaning of generosity. So Malakun Kareem, meaning he is very, very beautiful, extremely noble angel. Why did he say this? Because of his all-encompassing beauty, which is a characteristic not usually found in human beings. People think that angels are very beautiful because they're made of light. So they're very beautiful, which is why if people see someone who's very nice, very pious, very beautiful, what do they say? An angel. So similarly, the women said that he is a noble angel. Why did they say this? Basically, what they're trying to say over here to the wife of Aziz, we don't blame you anymore. You're not at fault for liking him. You're not at fault for falling in love with him. Because they had never seen someone as beautiful as Yusuf a.s., as handsome as him. So when they see him, they are, in other words, saying, you're not at fault. We believe you. And the beauty of Yusuf a.s., the Prophet ﷺ, he said that at Mi'raj, he passed by Yusuf a.s. during the night of Isra in the third heaven, and he commented that فَإِذَا هُوَ قَدْ أُعْطِيَ شَطْرَ الْحُسْنِ, that it is as though he was given half of all beauty. It was as though Yusuf a.s. was given half of all beauty. He was that handsome. That this is what the Prophet ﷺ had to say about him. These were his words describing him. So what's the response of the wife of Aziz? She says, قالت, she said, فَذَلِكُنَّ, then that is, O you all, ذَلِك, this ism ishara is referring to who? Yusuf a.s. Meaning this is the man that you, O women, الَّذِي, the one who, meaning the man who, Yusuf a.s., he is the one regarding whom لُمْتُنَّنِي فِيهِ, you all were blaming me concerning him. In other words, she's saying, so you think I'm really at fault? You think it's really my fault for liking him? He's just so beautiful. How can I not like him? How could you blame me? This is the person about whom you blamed me. How can I ever be at fault? Look at how she's justifying her crime. Lumtunnani is from the root letters lam, waw, mim, from the word laum. And the word laum is used for a blame. So lumtunna, you all were blaming me. Fihi, concerning him, meaning in falling in love with him. Look at yourself. You cut your hands at just looking at him. Now imagine I see him every single day. What would be my state? وَلَقَدْ رَاوَدْتُهُ, and certainly I did try to seduce him, عَنْ نَفْسِهِ, from himself. I did try to seduce him. She openly declares over here. Yes, I tried to seduce him. But what did he do? فَاسْتَعْصَمْ, but he firmly refused. Ista'sama from the root letters Ain, Sad, Mim, Asama, Ya'simu, which is to save someone. And isti'sam is to resist a temptation. It is to guard oneself, to preserve oneself. I tried to seduce him, but he firmly resisted. He guarded himself. He did not comply. He refused. Wala in, and surely if lam yaf'al, if he does not do ma amuruhu, what I command him, then what's going to happen to him? La yusjananna, then surely he will definitely be imprisoned. If he doesn't listen to me, then he is going to be sent to jail. Amuru, from the root letters Hamza, Mim, Ra, Amr. And what does Amr mean? A command, an instruction, an imperative. And Amuru, why is it Amuru? Because there are actually two Hamza over here. One is of the root, and one gives the meaning of I. So Amuruhu, I command him. If he doesn't listen to me, then he is being sent to jail. Yes, Junanna, from the root letters Sin, Jim, Nun. Wala yakunan, and surely he will be min as-saghirin, from those people who are belittled. If he doesn't listen to me, then he is going to become of those who are humiliated. The word la yakunan, lam is surely, and yakunan is yakunanna actually, meaning definitely he will be. But that is changed into just wala yakunan. And this is something that is common in the Arabic language, that for the ease of pronunciation at times, you just change the spelling. It's not that the actual words of the Quran have been changed, But rather these changes are within the language. That sometimes if you find it difficult to pronounce la yakunanna, you will just say la yakunan. Okay? So by this tanween at the end, don't think that this is a noun. It's not a noun. What is it? Yakuna. It's a fi'l, it's a verb. So we see that this woman, she threatens Yusuf alayhi salam now. Before she said, come, I'm ready for you. She locked up all the doors. She tried to seduce him day in and day out with her looks, by going and coming again and again, by walking in front of him, by her words, by her speech. She tried to seduce him repeatedly. When he refused, look at how she turns against him. That if you don't listen, I am going to send you to the prison. Is this love? This is not love. This is lust. So if someone threatens you, if you don't do this, then I'm going to do this to you, then is that love? It's not love. It's just lust. It's pure lust. But look at Yusuf alayhi salam. What does he do? Does he give up over here? No. He still firmly resists.